A deadly flu virus is born in a bustling city of China. It is denied by the national authorities. While governments ignore it, the virus maliciously spreads to every country in the world. The populace at first do not understand the severity of the situation, and before long, the number of infected increase out of control. In an effort to contain the spread, governmental lockdowns are belatedly enacted. The military are called out in many countries. Panic ensues. Supermarkets and pharmacies are looted by hoarders. The deaths rise as hospitals are overburdened. The world plunges into an economic recession. No, I'm not describing the COVID-19 pandemic. It's the MEV-1 disaster of the film Contagion. Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. This is Mitchie from the podcast A Method to the Madness. And joining me today is Patrick Laverne. How are you going, Patrick?
I'm well, Mitchie. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. What do you think of my intro to Contagion? Was it a good plot summary for you?
It was kind of ominous and sinister.
Yeah.
And
that's what I was going for.
It was a joke.
Yeah.
As well. So
yeah.
All that I like.
Yeah. So today,
well done. Give yourself a pat on the back.
Yeah. Thanks, mate. Today we'll be reviewing Steven Soderbergh's Contagion, a 2011 movie that takes us through a fictional flu pandemic on very similar scales of today's COVID-19. And that's the reason why we picked this movie to review. It's very relevant to current situations. So let's start off by discussing what we think of the movie. What did you think of it, Patrick, when you first watched it?
So my overall impression of the film was that I dig it. I've said this to you before, Mitchie, that I really like movies that handle bureaucracy really realistically. For example, Arrival handles the bureaucracy of alien contact really well. And similarly, this movie handles the bureaucracy of a worldwide pandemic really realistically. And, it's something we can say with credence because of, this sort of contemporary issue that's going on right now. You may have heard of it, COVID-19. Anyway, as we will explore in this podcast, I liked watching it now and just kind of comparing all the parallels to this modern crisis. And I thought it was a very prescient film.
Okay, interesting. Certainly, it seems like a much better movie, I guess, in the current climate that we are in now, because it's so much more relatable. I mean, I really enjoyed the movie, and I'd seen it years ago when it first came out, but I watched it again for the first time in years, and it just seemed a lot more scary than when I watched it before. You kind of become a lot more aware of how coronavirus, or how COVID-19, actually gets transmitted, and in a sense, I think it's a good movie to watch now because it does make you more aware and make you more worried, and therefore you're more likely to take the necessary social distancing measures or cleanliness procedures that you should do to minimize the spread of COVID-19. Interestingly, it's actually, a lot of people are doing reviews, I guess, on this movie now because of COVID-19, and the rise in popularity of this movie is immense. It's actually overtaken the number of views of Parasite, the Oscar-winning film, on some platforms, which is pretty phenomenal when you think about it, because Contagion is 10 years old now almost, and it's not exactly like an Oscar-winning film.
Apart from the prophecy-like quality that this film has, I really like just the general filmmaking in how it imbues this paranoia into you. We're kind of really self-aware about it now because it's all the information you see everywhere is about safety measures, and this film does a really great job of illustrating visually, just how much we touch stuff mainly. And this film really sort of commits really hardcore to that, making you really self-conscious feeling. I was certainly trying not to touch my face after this.
Yeah, I love it. It's so good, focusing on when she swipes a card at the start and you're straight away what it's alluding to. What do you think of the lighting in it?
The lighting?
Yeah. Did you notice that there was a heavy use of yellow and blue filters in different, yellow filters for any of the scenes that were shot with the CDC or WHO, with Lawrence Fishburne and stuff, and blue filters in Minneapolis where Matt Damon's family is?
Now that you mention it, I didn't really notice it at the moment. It all looked just kind of drab to me, which I thought fit the aesthetic of the film.
I guess a yellow filter would make it look drab. It's honestly so fucking yellow at some points. And then it's so blue at some points, my eyes fucking hurt. I just found it really interesting. I guess, I don't know, yellow is a color of, it kind of feels like a color of a hazmat suit or something like that.
Yeah.
And it kind of feels toxic almost. And you don't want to touch something that's yellow, really.
Hmm.
At least I don't anyway. Well, I've basically given a plot summary already. I mean, it's essentially just COVID-19, right? But in a movie. No, it's not really. But it's I guess the important part of what I should say in this is that it goes through different storylines. We've got the storyline from the perspective of a very high authority or authority figure in the CDC, which is the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. I think I just fully said that off my head, and I might be wrong.
That sounds right.
Yeah, it sounds about right. And WHO, which is the World Health Organization, both are heavily involved in the COVID-19 crisis now, as they are in this movie. So we get a very good bureaucratic, like Patrick said, idea of how these things are dealt with. But we also have a storyline of the ordinary layman, the ordinary citizen, which is played by Matt Damon. And Matt Damon actually loses his wife and stepson within basically 15 minutes of the movie starting, which is actually quite interesting. I wasn't the biggest fan of Matt Damon's storyline, but it's still important to be able to show the perspective of what an ordinary person like us, I guess, have to deal with in such crises.
As with any movie, you have to have an emotional center to carry you through. In this case, I think it's kind of split between Matt Damon and Lawrence Fishburne. But I think the more forefront thing about this film is, you know, the effect of a pandemic, and I really like how they explore all these very vastly different, lifestyles and people with, differing sort of, experiences. It just does a really great job of illustrating like the vastness of the pandemic, you know?
Yeah, it really does. And on top of that, I should probably mention the story of Jude Law's character. What's his name? Crumweedy, right? He had a really weird name. Not a very likable character, as indicated by the name Crumweedy. He actually has a very interesting character role. It's kind of, he shows how people can exploit a pandemic to achieve their own means. He's essentially an anti-vaxxer, so he doesn't believe in vaccinations, and he promotes forsythia as a miracle cure for MEV-1, which is a virus in Contagion, which is just a flower or some sort of plant-based thing. And he tells the world on his blog post that this is a cure to it all and reckons he's got it. And a lot of people follow him and he makes a lot of money out of it. He ends the movie being arrested for kind of promoting conspiracy theories and false propaganda and preventing people from actually getting the vaccine when it's created by the end of the movie. That was a very interesting perspective that you wouldn't normally expect in such a film about pandemics, yet it's highly important to kind of show these different things. And I kind of really appreciated that storyline, even though it wasn't well done at some points. And also, did you notice Jude Law's teeth?
Yes.
Yeah, I had a Google and like everyone's just commenting on it, and like it's literally just deliberate makeup.
Oh, that's not his real teeth?
No. If you look at his teeth, he's got beautiful teeth, but he has like crooked teeth in this. And I think it's just to kind of showcase that he's a bit of a nut job, right? Like it accentuates that kind of like caricature of like an anti-vaxxer even more with the name Crumweedy. Like, come on.
Maybe he's suspicious of the fluorine in the toothpaste or something, you know, so he doesn't brush his teeth.
But his teeth are wonky.
Well, yeah, I don't know, man.
Brushing your teeth's not going to help with wonkiness.
I don't know, man. Maybe he's just gotten like beaten up a lot because he's just such a fucking weird cunt.
Nah, you know why? It's because he's the only English character in it, and English people are always seen as having bad teeth.
Is he English? Because he keeps saying crikey English throughout the film. I thought it was just doing a really bad Aussie accent.
Well, he's not American anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nah, he's definitely English.
Okay. I like how, he really committed to exploring Jude Law's teeth.
Yeah. I'm a bit of I notice people's teeth quite a lot.
Yeah.
His teeth were real crooked. Because there was that side shot in his news interview with Lawrence Fishburne's character. And it's like stuck out like, I don't know, a sore thumb. For lack of a better metaphor or simile.
In a lab coat. The government rushed the trials. The lawyers indemnified the drug companies. Maybe it causes autism or narcolepsy or cancer 10 years from now. Who knows? The swine flu vaccine killed people back in 1976. Nerve disease. So we're all guinea pigs, starting from today. Just wait. They'll start listing side effects like the credits at the end of a movie.
So I guess the kind of, this podcast will be slightly different to our previous ones because it's not so philosophical. I mean, the movie itself doesn't have any real deep meaning in it, though it has some interesting ideas and stuff that we will talk about. So I think this podcast is a little bit more kind of fun in a sense. We're just going to be talking about ideas and kind of throwing back and forth different things about the movie and comparing it to our current situation and the predicament that the world is in now.
Yeah, I think the most interesting thing about this movie is definitely the parallels to now.
Yeah. Otherwise, we wouldn't be doing it.
Yeah.
Nor would like it have so many views right now. Let's start off by comparing it to COVID-19. I mean, you said, Pat, that it kind of really made you feel, I don't know, kind of nervous, I guess, or more wary of the fact that you could get COVID-19, right? Like, what parts to you stood out the most that it's with particular regards to what's going on today?
So, I forget that actress's name, but she talks about fomites.
Oh, Kate Winslet.
Yeah.
How can you forget her? Titanic Queen.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
She isn't. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah, so she talks about fomites, which are, bacteria spread by touching surfaces.
Or viruses.
Right.
Yeah, in this case.
Well, yeah. And, I don't know, there's a lot of uncomfortable shots where it just kind of lingers on stuff that you otherwise wouldn't give a second thought to unless you have this mindset, which we have now. So, for example, like, there's that scene where Matt Damon and his daughter or his son, I can't remember, go out of this door, and it just lingers on the door, waiting for it to close. And then...
Yeah, when he leaves school.
Yeah, and, like, you don't realize until it fully closes that the center of the frame is the door handle. And it's like, it's that kind of typical shiny metal door handle where you could never tell if it's like dirty or not.
Yeah.
And you see, like, that's everywhere kind of thing. And there's also that shot of the sick dude on the bus, and he's like touching all the poles and the handles and stuff. And
yeah.
Man.
I know it puts it in perspective, right? Like, and I really loved it. Like, it's such a simple way to direct. Like, you just hold the camera on it a little bit longer, but it has such a powerful effect and really accentuates what the movie's about.
Another one is that, it started in China.
Yep.
Which apparently you just informed me earlier that apparently a lot of these viruses and flus start in China. So it's not that novel, apparently.
Yeah, it's not. But, like, it's just funny. It's always in China.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They don't really address this more than once in the film, but Lawrence Fishburne's character talks about social distancing.
Yeah.
Which I didn't think was anything... I didn't think that was a thing before this COVID-19. I thought it was sort of made up for this pandemic, but apparently it had already existed.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Well, it makes sense, right? I mean...
Yeah, it does.
To have distance as a way of preventing transmission of some sort of disease.
And lastly, obviously... it wasn't to the scale as it was in the movie, but just chaos among citizens. You've seen this sort of played out with the toilet paper kerfuffle. There are videos of people online just like brawling at supermarkets for the last bag of toilet paper,
Yes.
And it's like, I don't know, compared to what you see in the film, it's super trivial and it makes you laugh, but that is still a parallel, which, yeah.
100%. Yeah. I mean, I guess, you're right. That is a massive, just an extreme version of what's going on today, right? Like, really.
Yeah.
What I found quite interesting was, who's that fat guy that's with Kate Winslet's character? Oh, sorry, Kate Winslet's character is Dr. Erin Mears, I think. And she dies and he buries her and gives her flowers and shit on her corpse. He has those glasses. He looks like the guy that owns fucking Steam.
Gabe Newell. I don't remember which character this is. Oh.
He was like supporting her the whole time.
Yeah, I thought it was...
I met her at the airport and he's like, oh, you're going to need something warmer than that. And, you don't want to catch a cold. And then she gives him a funny look.
Well, you're asking who was that character?
Well, you know the character, right? Let's just...
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
He's just this fat, creepy guy in it.
Yeah.
Sorry, mate, if you're listening to this.
There's a lot of, random innocuous characters like that.
Well, anyway, I like the fact that at one point they're walking down the stairs into the big stadium, or maybe out of it, whatever. And he says to Kate Winslet, because Kate Winslet's like more professional, and he's just kind of helping her out. And he says to her like, "Oh, my wife makes me like, she when I get home, she makes me strip down to my naked, and she like boils all my clothes and lathers me in hand sanitizer. She's overreacting, right?" Is exactly what he says. And I'm just like, and she's like, "No, she's probably right. That's what you should do, and stop touching your face." And like, it was just so relatable because like everyone before it became a big thing and we really started seeing the deaths go up, but like, oh, it's not that bad, right? Like, I don't need to worry about it too much. Do I really need to go home and sanitize my hands and shit? And the reality is, yes, you do. Like, it does help. And I thought that, to me, was particularly relatable to COVID-19 and today and all that. And the other thing, like you said, the outbreak was in China, but the other aspect of it was the fact that the Chinese government are denying it is just a massive parallel. Yeah, remember Marion's character, the epidemiologist sent to China to investigate Ground Zero and who the patient zero was, and then the Chinese people are like speaking around her, and they're like saying like, "Oh, she's got no evidence. It doesn't mean that it came from here."
Right.
And it's just like so typical. Like, they just want to deny it, they're not accept it, which is kind of what happened with the initial outbreak of COVID-19, that it was not actually properly disseminated to the rest of the world, which sort of elongated the issue and made it worse.
Interesting.
Yeah. I guess we should talk about the differences as well. I guess the main difference is how deadly the virus is. The death rate of MEV-1 in this movie. MEV stands for meningoencephalitic virus, which I didn't know, but it refers to the fact that the virus gives you meningitis, which is, fucking deadly. That's a brain infection, essentially. Your brain gets infection on the skin of it or whatever. It just kills you. Yeah, and the death rate of this virus is at 20 to 30%, depending on where you are in the world. That compares quite differently to COVID-19, which has a death rate right now of an estimate between about 1 to 2%. So a factor of 10 different, even more. So if for comparison, if we had this virus in the world right now, then our death rate would be like 10 times higher, which would put it up to what, like, I don't know, 500,000, 1 million or something. So, I mean, that's why I guess we have a lot more extreme cases in this movie. People are actually robbing stores and stuff like that, and there's actual panic, while the COVID-19 situation here is not so bad. So I guess another interesting thing that stood out to me was the whole R0 explanation. And this movie is actually quite well praised for its explanation of the R0, because it's quite simply explained by Dr. Mears towards the start of the movie. It's a simple concept, and it's important to understand what the R0 of a sickness or disease is to see the severity of it. And in the movie, it actually starts off with an R0 equal to 2, which means that a person carrying it will infect 2 people. And it does mutate about halfway through the movie to increase to an R0 of 4. The interesting thing is, with COVID-19, the R0 value is actually higher than 2. Still, the upper estimates of the R0 value of COVID-19 are actually close to 5, and lower estimates are about 2.5. It varies depending on how well social distancing works and all that kind of stuff. But I guess the point is that COVID-19 is actually pretty bad in terms of its infection rate. On top of that, and this is kind of my theory, the virus itself, COVID-19, actually can stay dormant in the body a lot longer. But this virus in Contagion is so bad, it's so deadly. MEV-1 is so deadly that it will just kill you dead within like a couple of days, right? And that means that it's less likely for it to sit around in the population, because if you do get it, you're probably going to die anyway. So it quickly kills you, and then the virus dies in the body. So you can kind of easily contain a virus because you'll be able to tell who's got it because it's so deadly. But COVID-19, we've got an issue where we can't actually detect it very well, because people don't realize they have it, and then they walk around everywhere and they give it to people, but they don't even know. And in a sense, that makes COVID-19 a much more deadly virus. It just has a lower death rate. So it kind of baffles me really that the death rate in Contagion got so high at like 26 million as a lower number, because like, if you acted on it properly and it's not too infectious like that, then it seems like an astronomically high number. And my guess is that it's because the authorities in Contagion actually don't do a very good job at responding to it initially, which is what makes it so infectious and so rampant in society compared to COVID-19. So I think we should be grateful for what our governments are doing today. I think they're not doing a too terrible job, unless you live in the US.
Yeah,
but yeah,
absolutely. Also, it kind of makes sense that if that disease, sorry, what's it called in the film?
MEV-1.
MEV-1. If MEV-1 is so rapid, then, all the hospitals and stuff would be overrun. And so, you would have a lot of people still infecting other people because they're not, properly treated and stuff. I don't know. I think, it kind of makes sense to me, just this rapid proliferation of, infected cases, not being dealt with.
Yeah, it's a very interesting concept.
I wonder if we didn't have quarantine right now, if it would be more deadly than this MEV-1.
Well, the virus itself is not as deadly. So COVID-19 is not as deadly as MEV-1. That's like an indisputable biological fact. But what can increase the death rate of our current COVID-19 is the hospitals being overrun, and then you don't have the proper facilities to treat people with the flu, with the virus. But MEV-1 in Contagion, it's so rampant, it's so deadly that so what it does is it infects it's like a normal flu at first. It infects the throat and the nose and stuff like that, like a normal flu or cold. But it spreads into the brain and the spinal cord, which is why it's called MEV, because it gives you meningitis or encephalitis, which is an infection of the spinal cord / brain. Like that can happen in extreme cases with the normal flu, but this one's obviously so bad that it happens in most cases, and that's why the death rate's so high, because a lot of people end up with meningitis, which is basically like, if you got meningitis, you might as well start writing your will because you're fucked. Yeah.
Damn. That's depressing.
Yeah, it is pretty bad. I mean, you definitely don't want meningitis. So make sure you have your meningitis shot if you haven't already. It is a thing. Free for people under 20 years old, I think, in Australia.
Oh, look at you, fucking public service man.
Yeah.
So at this point, I think we have to believe this is respiratory. Maybe fomites, too.
What's that, fomites?
It refers to transmission from surfaces. The average person touches their face 2,000 or 3,000 times a day.
2,000 or 3,000 times a day?
3 to 5 times every waking minute. In between, we're touching doorknobs, water fountains, elevator buttons, and each other. Those things become fomites.
Is this something we want to
So
release to the press?
in the movie, they actually compare it to Spanish flu, because obviously COVID-19 didn't exist at the time of this movie's creation. I thought that was quite an interesting comparison, because a lot of people convert COVID-19 to Spanish flu. Spanish flu is actually a variant of swine flu, or it's similar to that. It's a H1N1 virus. And at one point, Lawrence Fishburne's character does say the Spanish flu killed about 1% of the world's population. So as many as 70 million people could die if it's as bad as that. Yet only like 30 million people die in Contagion. So it kind of shows that we've advanced a lot since the Spanish flu, that we do have a lot more better antibiotics and facilities to deal with that kind of stuff.
Wait, there was a scene in the film, I might have misinterpreted this, but they were in like some very highly quarantined, like safe looking thing, and there were all these giant containers, which I'm assuming they keep like all sorts of deadly viruses and stuff in there.
Yeah. That was at the end, right, where she lifts it up and it's got H1N1, SARS, and then MEV-1. Yeah, I love that scene. I was fucking mad.
That's interesting, like, because they obviously have that in real life, right?
Yeah, I think it's important to have those viruses because, well, firstly, what if you get an outbreak of H1N1 again? H1N1 is swine flu. Then, you want the virus there ready to go in a lab so you can grow it or whatever to make a vaccine. Yeah,
it is absolutely necessary. But it also incites a lot of thought about, that archetypal story of falling into the wrong hands kind of thing.
Yeah, I did like those scenes. I think that's a lot of the praise of this movie is from the more bureaucratic side of it. And the way I look at the movie is it's very much from the eyes of a virologist or an epidemiologist. It was better as a movie from that bureaucratic, professional, scientific standpoint. The music was like, I quite like the score in this. It was very like forward moving, like kept you going, like, and it was also very ominous and kind of, it was almost relentless, like the virus itself, like and it was a unique score, like no typical orchestra or anything like that. It was very synthetic kind of electronic kind of stuff.
I just wish it was a bit more poignant, maybe. If they
did that. That's the thing, right? That's what I mean. Like the movie is very clinical and cold almost, isn't the, and that's where that's the negative aspect of the movie, in my opinion, is the whole of Matt Damon's storyline. you know, and his daughter and shit, like, didn't really do much for me, to be honest. Like, it was kind of cool seeing him getting looted and shit and, like, you know, kind of freaky. But, like, the story of a daughter and she has a sulk because she misses a high school prom, like, like, fuck off. Like, there's people dying in the world. It's got a 30% death rate. At least you don't have MEV-1 and you're worrying about your fucking high school prom with your, like, boyfriend and shit. Like, you know, it was kind of almost tacky, in my opinion, and it didn't really do a good job to kind of convey that kind of distraught emotion you could experience during a pandemic.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, surely it would have been more important to focus on the fact that Matt Damon lost his wife and stepson to the virus in a span of 3 days, yet he barely grieves in the movie. Only right at the end when he's looking over the camera when he's like has a sulk about it. But like at no other point in the movie does he really care. He doesn't seem to care. Like, he's got no reaction to it whatsoever.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was really, really weird.
If it was up to me, I would have cut out all of Marion Cotillard's stuff.
Really?
Because if you think about it, it doesn't... Do you remember how it ends?
Oh, I love the ending.
Well, she realizes that they were given a placebo and then she just fucks off. I mean, it's implied what she's going to go do.
The end of her storyline. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just like, there's nothing really that's significant going on for her as a character. Like, I feel like there is for Matt Damon and Lawrence Fishburne.
But what about... But she investigates the whole Patient Zero thing. Like, how cool was the whole security camera footage where, like, it replayed, like, everything Gwyneth Paltrow went through, her character, and then it cut out into
that was cool.
And, like, yeah, her character was kind of, like, a bit pointless, but I thought the investigation itself was actually quite interesting.
Actually, yeah, you've convinced me. You're right.
Yeah. Like, how cool was it? Like, you kind of find out what's going on and they're trying, like... Because they really do this, and there's people doing it now in China trying to find out where COVID-19 came from, and no one's really absolutely sure yet. Because, like, they say bats, but then there's another theory that it came from the pangolin, I think.
The what, sorry?
Is that a Wait, isn't that a Pokemon? No, it's not a Pokemon. It's like an anteater looking thing with lots of, like, you know, like, no one's sure if it actually came from bats or not. The point is it did come from some random animal in China. Yeah. That probably came from Wuhan. But like... And my favorite scene of this movie is the very last scene.
Yeah, that's a great
where
scene.
It shows you how how good is it? Like, it's like silent, nothing going on, just the music playing, and then it shows you how the bat goes to the pig, and the pig goes to the chef, and the chef didn't wash his fucking hands, and then starts this pandemic. So maybe if he washed his hands, you know, what a dirty chef. Like, you go out and greet someone, you've just been touching a pig's mouth. Like, fucking wash your hands, mate. Like, go and shake someone's hand with pig blood all over it.
Yeah.
Anyway,
irresponsible.
That was a fucking mad scene. Yeah,
it was pretty cool.
I do like
another.
Yeah,
another scene I really like is the scene where they kind of burying the bodies in like the middle of the city.
And the trenches. Yeah,
kind of talk about how they're running out of like body bags and.
Yeah, it's freaky. Yeah. When you think about it like that, like our society is not very well developed for death. Like. We're only used to, like, dying such easy ways, like old age or occasionally getting hit by a car, that when we do have a mass death event like this, we'd have no idea what to do, you know, because we haven't had a massive war like this since 1945. Like,
yeah, it's true. Yeah.
When did we run out of body bags? 2 days ago. They're trying to get more in from Canada, but they just want to wait and see.
I do want to talk about how Contagion is a very good... I'm going to use the word propaganda, although it's not really like a great word for it, but a good way of advertising how we should deal with COVID-19. I mean, we both talked about how this movie makes us feel... It's unnerving and makes you feel uneasy afterwards, and you kind of like... I felt like I really wanted to itch my eye at one point in the movie, and I didn't, because I didn't want to get COVID-19. Like, and you feel like you wash your hands a lot more afterwards and make more effort. And I think it's good that people are watching this movie, because hopefully those people are practicing the measures that are required, because a lot of people aren't. Like, it's a big problem we have, and that's why it's spreading so much, is because people just don't follow the rules, you know, and they do go out and do shit that they shouldn't do. And the fact that Contagion does this kind of, I guess it points to the fact that movies can be used in a sense to really disseminate important ideas and stuff like that. yet they can still remain like a good watch and good fun as well, like good fun to watch, I guess. I don't know if you can think of any other examples, but this is a big one that stands out for me from now on, I guess, when it comes to movies that actually should be watched for the sake of helping something out.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that comes to mind is just like science fiction in general. It's just like things that haven't happened yet, but just sort of we've already explored like the consequences and the philosophy behind like AI, for example.
Yeah, true.
I feel like we're actually pretty ready to make that leap.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, like AI is a great example. There's plenty of movies out there, and we're kind of worried about AI, and I guess we'd know how to deal with it based on what movies have done. Like, you got to take movies with a grain of salt because it's always usually fiction, but they still present great ways and great ideas in which we could deal with something in the future. Yeah,
I mean, like, the things that last are things that are like highly provocative. And yeah, this film fits that category.
Yeah. Can't think of any good AI films.
I don't know, just like I read Through Android's Dream of Electric Sheep recently, so that's what's in my mind.
Oh, okay. I haven't actually read that. Is that I do like Philip K. Dick, but not that I haven't read that book. Is it good?
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, okay. I can think of a bad AI movie.
What's that?
Will Smith's I Robot or I Am
what's it called? Yeah, you got it.
Dude, that is fucking atrocious, that movie. It's little garbage, like 90% of the movies that are churned out by Will Smith.
Yeah.
I'm not the greatest fan of him.
Will Smith is like consistently average.
Average, yeah. Yeah, he is fucking
But
average,
I love him for it. Truly. Like, unironically.
I don't like him. I don't like him. One final thing, I guess, is that watching this movie is good now because it's going to help us deal with COVID-19. But these measures that we do now, they should really be, I guess, sort of more culturally known because we don't really, depending on which country you live in, but in Australia, we're not very conscious of viral transmission in public and coughing and stuff like that. No one wears masks here. Whether masks are useful or not is a debated question, though. And
really, plenty of people in Brisbane wear masks.
Are they Asian in complexion?
Well, yes, a lot of them are, but some whiteys wear them. I've seen them.
Oh well, Well, here in Canberra, no one wears masks, and the only ones that do are usually the Asian people. Jeez, I feel like we're being racist by just identifying Asians.
Yeah, should we like transparency? We're both Asian, so it's okay.
I mean,
yeah. No, don't put that in.
What?
It's like
what bit?
It's just such a fucking the transparency. We're both Asian, so it's okay to say that.
Like, there's nothing wrong with identifying a race. The Asian people are usually, well, Japanese at least, because we know they're more hygienically. Anyway, let's just cut all this out. Anyway, what were we saying? I guess so. In Australia, we're not very culturally aware of being hygienic and aware of viral transmission, the transmission of flu and cold and anything really. But if you go to other parts of the world, such as Japan, for example, they do wear a lot of masks. And I know for a fact from friends and family there that they kind of, think about when they get home, they gargle salt water because they might get the cold or something for being out and that. Like they just seem more culturally aware of that kind of stuff. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is that it's important to maintain the ideas that we have from COVID-19 because it's just going to be helpful in general, right? Like no one really wants the flu or cold. And if we like this, then we're going to reduce the number of times we get the flu and cold every year, like all of us individually. It also has a bigger implication, and it's the fact that flu pandemics like the one in Contagion or COVID-19 are inevitable. At this point in time, there's not actually any way of designing or creating a vaccine that can, in one stroke, make you immune to all flu viruses, because flu viruses come in so many different shapes and forms and they mutate constantly that you can only get a vaccine for one of them or two of them at once, and then you're only safe from that. But if another one rocks up along, then you've got no immunity to it. So these things are inevitable, and as history has shown, like look at the Spanish flu or Hong Kong flu or swine flu epidemic 10 years ago, SARS. These things are all flu viruses, and we should be always ready for the fact that one day we're going to get a really bad one, worse than COVID-19 perhaps, a high death rate and just as infectious. And yeah, I think this movie does a good job at kind of showing that.
Vaccinate your kids, people.
Yeah.
Autism is better than death.
Jeez. Yes, vaccinations are very important. I think the movie makes a point of that as well with Crumweedy's character. Oh, sorry, Jude Law's character, who is Crumweedy.
I like his little suit that he has, that he wears. It makes him look real puffy.
Little hat?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I think that wraps up most of the stuff we wanted to say about this movie. I was very excited to talk about all this stuff, and hopefully it has some sort of educational benefit as well.
Did a good job, man.
Did I? Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks, Pat. It's the first compliment I've heard from you from starting this podcast. Wow.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Let that be on the record.
Compliment you constantly.
Oh, yeah. Actually, this is the first podcast I started.
Yeah, that's true. Well, you hosted one before, didn't you?
Yeah, but
One we didn't
we're not
post.
going to publish that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, one last thing before we finally finish up. We've started the idea of giving a couple of recommendations of what you could watch if you don't want to watch Contagion. Maybe there's something else that we can recommend you to watch. What have you been watching recently, Pat, aside from Contagion?
I finished the HBO series Barry, starring Bill Hader.
Barry, you finished another series. Didn't you finish Watchmen last week?
I've been watching it for the last couple weeks.
Right.
Yeah, and I just finished it recently.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very good. I'm a huge fan of Atlanta, and this show gives off really similar Atlanta vibes. And it probably is because it's directed, or I don't know how much of it is, but some of it is directed by Hiro Murai, who also directs a bunch of Atlanta episodes.
Okay.
And yeah, give it a watch if you like Atlanta.
Yep.
What have you been watching?
Well, if you enjoyed Contagion, if you watched Contagion, you enjoyed it, which you probably should have, or it should have intrigued you at the very least. There's a movie called Outbreak, 1995, with Dustin Hoffman in it.
Oh yes, I know of this.
Yeah, and it's essentially the same thing as Contagion, just not as realistic, mainly because they make a vaccine in like one night, which is just not possible at all in any world. But it's got definitely not as good ratings as Contagion either, but it's still a pretty good movie, and I would recommend it if you want to delve deeper into the world of viruses and diseases and freak yourself out even more in this current climate.
Nice.
Cool. Well, I think that pretty much finishes everything. Thank you for listening to our podcast. I did enjoy this one particularly.
Yeah, this was a good one.
You did as well, Pat.
I most certainly did. You are very informed.
Yeah, I love this shit.
Fucking nerd.
Yeah. So yeah, if you want to listen to any more of our podcasts, we are available on amttm.com. If you have any further questions or any queries, or if you want to tell me how many times I was wrong about all my information in this podcast, please mail us at mail@amttm.com. That is an email, by the way, not a physical mail address. And also, we are available on what platforms, Pat? Because I can't remember. Netflix. No, not Netflix. No, definitely not Netflix.
If you want to hear more of us, you can find us on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Spotify. I think that's it.
Yeah, I think that's it. That's it, yeah. YouTube.
I thought I said YouTube. I don't know.
No, I don't think you did. I don't know.
Cool.
The podcast will tell. So yeah, thank you for listening to our podcast. And what are we going to review next time, Pat?
We are reviewing the 2019 film about society, Joker.
About society?
Well, apparently.
Oh.
According to the internet.
I thought it was just about the Joker.
Yeah, you'd think so. And if you see the film, that is what you'd, come to the conclusion of. And any sensible reading of the film, you probably would see that it is about the Joker more than anything, and just kind of uses the themes as a backdrop. But yeah, sure. It's about society.
Yeah. I mean, I can see that.
Yeah.
Anyway, for next time. Yeah. Cool. Well, I'll see ya.
See ya.